Okay guys, so once again, JQ has shown me that they are one of the best in the production market at this price point at cosmetic polishing. This blade looks freaking stunning. So guys, this is a Wakizashi from JQ Sino Swords. Actually, it's just called JQ Swords, I believe now. This sword came to me as a review sample from sworditch.com, swordis.com. They have a variety of different types of brands of swords that they sell. You should definitely check them out. It'll knock your socks off. You have some great branding from Hanban all the way up to Citadel, Zisei, Shadow Dancer, and some of the best custom sword builds that you've ever seen are on their site. Take a look at this.
I was able to get a sneak peek at their prototype of the sword builder before it goes live to the public. And I must say, I was very, very impressed with the ease of use it was to pick and build a sword. Compared to other sword builders I've seen in the past, this was easy to understand, very detailed. There was also information that they gave you to make sure you chose the right selections for the right steel. You can pick your steel, pick your brand. This was a Shadow Dancer build that I was doing. I did it quick and easy, and they give you so many great options from the manufacturer in the sword builder to pick exactly the sword that you want to choose and pay exactly what you want to pay and only include the options that you want to choose. So you're able to build a fantastic Shadow Dancer sword in whatever budget you're looking to spend.
Really hope you guys are loving these oceanic views that I'm struggling to get you guys. Even though this is a review sample, I will basically give you my best opinion, not as a practitioner or a professional, or someone basically who has been around these swords for a while, has studied them, and has seen the good and the bad. So I'm giving you my honest opinion of what this sword is about. And once again, thank you for sworditch.com for sending me over this review sample so I can get that over to you. So on this section here, guys, we're going to be showing you the fit and finish, the overall fit and finish of the sword, go through all the pieces of the sword. We're going to be cutting with it. We're going to be showing you basically how it feels in the hand, and if it matches up with basically other Wakis that I've been reviewing on my channel of late. There's just been like Waki Palooza here. We have to talk about the Tsukamaki. Now, a lot of people talk about, even other reviewers, that basically how important the Tsukamaki or the wrapping on the handle is, because not a lot of companies can do that well. Most people can make blades that cut at a sharp and it can cut and can do that thing, but not many people can do the Tsukamaki or nail this right. JQ is one of those companies that basically give you some of the tightest Ito knots in the industry. You literally get bruises on your fingers if you try to move the knots. I can barely move it a millimeter. This is probably, and I've said it before, JQ, bar none, has some of the tightest Tsukamaki, the tightest Ito wrapping in the industry, whether it's a sword in the thousands or sword in the $100 range. This sword and their Tsukamaki is one of the absolute best. Being this is a Wakizashi, this is a 7-inch blade because it's meant to be a one-handed weapon. This is even more solid because it is also with Hishigami paper, okay, wrapping it, so it solidifies it even more, reinforces the knot, so really it does not move whatsoever. Now at this point, I have not cut with it. After I do all my cutting sections, I'll come back to you and let you know, did the knots move, did anything displace? I don't think it will, because I've cut with JQ swords many times before. I have a long history with them, and nothing displaces on their knots after doing vigorous cutting year after year. They're always fantastic. Cotton wrap, real ray skin. Now I understand, guys, I call it as I see it. If I see something wrong, I let you know it's wrong. If I see something good, I am going to give credit to basically the manufacturer for giving you a great wrapping, and JQ really does it well. This is the way I see it. My experience with JQ swords is their Tsukamaki has always been really on par and well done. This is a lacquered sire, okay? It's the lacquered sire. If you look at it basically in the light, you don't really see any ripples. It looks pretty clean. There are a couple little ripples here and there, but for the most part, their execution was done well on this black lacquered sire. I don't like the fingerprint magnet that it is, but for what it is an attractive sire. You also have the ray skin here. I'm not sure if it's 100% real ray skin, but it is there, and it gives it a nice aesthetic appeal to the sword. Sageo is pretty much your standard Sageo string. It's standard to the point where they're all, the dime a dozen. A lot of good companies give you this type of Sageo string. It's serviceable. It's good for a practitioner. It's not Japanese Sageo. It's not thick Sageo that you would want to see like on a Japanese sword. But it is definitely good Sageo, good quality. It's not shoelace material. It gets the job done. That's basically what it is. And this pattern has been done a million times before, but it just kind of works. The fittings on this sword are all iron. Now, how do I know they're iron? Because I don't have a magnet on me, but they're all magnetic. Everything sticks. The magnet sticks to these. Everything, all the pieces are complete solid iron because the magnet sticks right to it. So that's always a big plus. A lot of companies kind of cheap out and give you metal alloy. This being iron, J.Crew doesn't really cheap out in terms of their fittings. They usually give you pretty much iron fittings, and they give you bullhorn and a Koiguchi. Bullhorn is not on the Kojiri here, but it's definitely on the Koiguchi, which is always a big plus. And one thing that basically is consistent with J.Crew, they give you great fittings, everything is very tight, but you do have some ledges. The Kashida is a plain Kashida piece, which I like. Simple is better. It's a plain execution, iron piece. I like it. It looks traditional, it looks nice, it looks clean. No extra embellishments on there that's gonna make it look cheap or overdone. It's just something plain and simple, which I prefer. Plain and simple done well is always better than basically overdone and done gaudy and done corny. So that's my personal opinion on it. The Akasha does have a ledge. If you basically fingertip it here on the side of your finger, you can feel it, but not on this side. The knot is very tight. Will this feel? I don't think this will, I'll feel it in my hand or anything with that ledge, but it's just to be noted. They usually don't line them up 100% perfect. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but more times you do have a little bit of a ledge on each side on Akasha on some J.Crew swords. But is it bad? It's good. It's also a sword that's around $352. You would want to see it more cleanly done, but it's not. Does it hinder basically the quality of the sword or usability of the sword? I don't think so, because aesthetically, I would like to see this a little bit better, being a sword in the $350 range. Same thing with the Fuchi guys, plain black iron Fuchi. Some ledges that you can physically feel. On the middle, it's lined up pretty good, but on the side, you have some ledges that might dig into your hand or might not. But again, it's more of an aesthetic thing. I don't think it's going to hinder the usage of the sword. It's not going to loosen up. It's not going to basically cut you or anything like that. But it's just something aesthetically that I wish they would kind of improve on, because honestly, if you're getting to that price point of $352 on this sword, you want to see these things a little bit more cleanly executed in terms of the transitions. But it's not terrible. In terms of a transition from 1 to 10, I would probably name this probably a 7. It's probably that high, but it could be done a lot better.
The Suba, I believe it's called a Sunburst Suba. This particular Suba has been done many times before, but if you even go this close as I'm doing right now, you can see there's a lot of smooth textures, pretty good execution, no jagged edges, nothing that bites into your hand, and it feels smooth. It's got like a powdered black iron smooth feel to it. Solid iron, which I like. You know, it's durable and it's done well. So basically a piece that's been done a million times, but executed pretty well by J.Crew. You also see the brass seppas that really stand out against the black. It just makes it for a really nice, aesthetically pleasing look against the brass seppas. Not a bad job. I like the Suba a lot. You can't have such a nice looking blade and have just like a plain diamond dozen, same habaki that you see on so many different types of production swords out there. This particular habaki is a representation of a two-piece habaki in historical times. Obviously, I believe this is just one piece, but you can see it's got like a two-tone brass pattern. It's got I think it's like rain or scratch effects on the habaki itself. It's got some nice tones to it. It's a nice execution. The fit around the blade is satisfactory at best. It's not excellent, but it's not poorly done as well. And it also does its job and fits extremely well into the saya. No problem there as far as sheathing and unsheathing.
Now, the fit and finish of the sword, if you guys saw my first impressions video of the sword, the unboxing, the one thing that I noticed right off the bat, I have a mic on my hat here. No rattle whatsoever. It's perfectly silent, perfectly fit. The blade is perfectly fit in there. I even saw that some wood pieces, because they tried to kind of carve it out a little bit before they put it away to fit it perfectly, and it pops out with absolutely no problem. It slides almost like it's on rails. It's pretty smooth, not the best, but pretty smooth, but pops into place, doesn't come out at all, and also no rattle or anything like that. Perfect, basically, unsheathing of this sword with your thumb, pops open, and you're ready to basically engage with the sword. So the fit and finish on this is excellent. And the fact that basically they're giving you bullhorn on the Koiguchi is always a big plus, and it's something that J.Crew is known for, that most companies, I wish they would follow suit with it. Okay, guys, so basically the highlight of this particular sword, as you've seen, is the folded steel. It is that San-Mai construction, that San-Mai folding method of the blade. That is basically where the aesthetic beauty of this sword comes in, and the price of the sword comes in, is in the San-Mai folding.
So let me just interject here, guys. The San-Mai construction is folded steel blade. It's a specific type of construction where you have a harder steel on the inner core all the way to the point, and then it's covered with a jacket softer steel that theoretically will make the steel very hard, great edge retention, great core, but also have a softer steel that would protect the sword on impacts, and the sword will be less prone in breaking.
So basically it is a 20-inch Nagasa. It's a 20-inch Nagasa or 20-inch blade. It's got a mid-air hamon, which I've seen a lot from J-Crew on pretty much some other swords that I have. But you notice the cosmetic polishing is one of the best. J-Crew does one of the best polishing in this price range in the industry. They always give you, when you choose that cosmetic polishing, it just makes it for a absolutely stunning blade. You see all the details in the blade. Now, giving you that cosmetic polish, also coupling up with the mid-air hamon, and the San-Mai construction, where you want to see a prominent lamination line and you want to see the hada or the wood grain patterns of the folded steel, having that cosmetic polish will make everything completely pop and come out. I've seen some better polishing work from them in the past, but this is still pretty damn good. Is it the best I've seen from them? No, but they are known to giving you some really wonderful cosmetic polish work. The one thing that kind of disappointed me about this blade, you have two types of bohi here. You have the Nagata High, which is, this is a Unokubi Zakuri. So you have that normal thinning out of the blade with that reinforced tip here. You can see that hopefully on the camera. It thins out and then it gets thick. You have the Mune that gets thick, thins out here. That's the Nagata High. Okay, that's normally on Unokubi Zakuris, and that's what makes them basically so, you feel the friction, you feel the noise.
It's called takakazi, which means sword wind. Couldn't get the words out.
Feel it, you hear it, and it makes it for a very good aerodynamic type of cutter, very light in the hands, very nimble, and it's one of the best geometrics out there in terms of their swords. Now, the one thing that's missing on this sword is the sohi, which is the bohi that's basically supposed to be included here on all Unokubi Zakuri swords. So that's something that disappointed me that's not on here. Now, I don't know if it's completely my fault, because when I did the ordering process, they asked if you want additional bohi. I chose no, because I know on a normal Unokubi Zakuri, you have that sohi there in addition with the Nagata High, and it's just part of how a Unokubi Zakuri geometric is made. So maybe by them, me saying no, they didn't put it in, but I would assume that it was supposed to be in. So maybe it was a matter of a misunderstanding, but I think they definitely dropped the ball. They definitely should have kept the Unokubi Zakuri in the same geometric that it normally is, because this would be an even more of a stunning sword if you had that groove right here in the beginning that terminates before the Nagata High. That would make this blade a lot more beautiful than what it is already. But even besides that, the polishing work, you see the lines and how prominent the hamon is, how prominent the lamination line and the wood grain hada. It's just absolutely a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blade. Obviously, this is just the whole highlight of the sword. This is basically what you're paying for in terms of this sword, is basically the polishing work that J-Crew is giving you is absolutely stunning. So we're going to be going cutting with this sword. I want to see how the San-Mai construction holds up. I want to see if it's true in terms of what they say, in terms of having that hardcore and having that soft jacket around, if it's going to stop it from bending. It's going to be less prone to kind of taking the bend, being able to have that hardcore and the hard edge, having that edge retention to get through all your cuts, and also basically avoiding having the sword take a set, having that San-Mai construction. So technically speaking, San-Mai should be a very good type of folding method to give you a very resilient but very hard edge type of sword that's going to be able to take a little bit of punishment. So let's see basically how this sword does with everything I'm going to throw at it in terms, and I'm going to end it off at the end. Stick around for it. I'm going to go into the wood vines as I do with all my other swords. All the geese going nuts here. And we're basically going to see how this holds up compared to the other Wakizashis that I recently did on reviews. But so far, it just feels really good in the hand. It's very light. This is probably the lightest sword of all the Wakis I tried. This is at about 1.7 pounds. It's pretty light for a Wakizashi. Actually, it's a pretty good weight for a Wakizashi. It's obviously not a long blade, only a 20-inch blade. It's about 27 inches total. So it's a perfect size for the handle grip, perfect for the real estate, and perfect basically be able to get a good swing on it and have some little control of the tip, having that weight. But I would love to have that Sohi groove here. That would make it so much better. I miss the fact that it's not there, because I feel like this would have been an even more nimble sword and something that would even be more comfortable in the hands, even though it's as comfortable as it is now. But let's get into the cutting and let's see what it's got. All right, guys, water bottles, you know how I roll. Water bottles is a good way, other than the fact that they're inexpensive and they're a cheap target. I mean, they're also a lot of fun to cut, but you can get a lot of use out of water bottle cuts in terms of a demonstration, because you see basically the initial sharpness of the sword out of the box. And if I didn't mention it already, you know, I mentioned in other videos, the sharpness level of this Jade-Ku came pretty damn sharp, not like hair popping sharp, but pretty damn sharp to be able to cut, I think, with ease. We'll see how it is. You also feel the control of the sword in your hand in terms of how you're able to kind of change directions and basically start and stop, and if you have how much control you have of the tip. Now, this imagining, because it's a Unokubi Zakuri, I should pretty much have some good controls in terms of how I change directions and try to get, you know, multiple cuts on the same target. So initial sharpness, control, balance of the sword. You'll see how the sword is balanced, and basically how lively it is in your hand. Either it's me or it's not as sharp as I thought. I think it could definitely be sharper. And I think if this was honed up a little bit more, now that I'm looking at it, it's sharp, but I think it could definitely need a little bit of sharpening work, because you really got to work at it to get these things cut. Let me try to put a little bit more force, a little more direction, see if I can't get this cut a little cleaner. Yeah, with a little bit more force, I was able to get through it. It's definitely sharp enough, but it's you need a little bit more force to get through it, because it's when the edge is not as razor sharp as you would like it to be, you need a little bit more swiftness, a little more force. Being that this is probably the first time I'm cutting with this, I'm feeling like, yeah, it's sharp, but you need a little more heft, a little bit more speed, a little more, make sure your edge alignment is perfect. It's good. It's good. Definitely change directions. I think as far as the sword itself, it feels good in the hand, and I felt really, really in control because of the Ito being cotton compared to the leather, because the leather basically, it just slicks. It's slick in your hands, you know, when your hands are wet, but the cotton, you don't really have that problem. I felt like even when my hands wet, I felt I had pretty much good control. So guys, as you know, I'm always looking for different type of cutting materials, something that's going to be inexpensive, because obviously tatami, everything's expensive. All cutting materials are crazy expensive. So I had cut with this before. These are cardboard tubes from that they use to wrap up carpet. Carpet is wrapped up on these rolls. I met a good friend. I made a good friend here. His name is Hussein. His company is Floor Coverings International. Try to put a better picture of this card in the video. His name is Hussein. He services all of Staten Island, much of Manhattan, pretty much all 5 boroughs, but definitely give him a call for any type of floor coverings, carpeting, woodwork, you know, wood floors and things like that. Here's a shout out to him. Hussein, thank you for hooking me up with these. He's gonna actually, if this works out well for me, he's gonna hook me up with any rolls that he unrolls the carpet for customers. He'll save the rolls for me. I'll cut them and I'll be able to cut them on the video. And Hussein, thank you so much. Sometimes you really meet good people if you look for them, and he's a good guy. Again, you got to have swift cuts. The cardboard was a good target. What I've realized that I think with the cardboard rolls is you really have to soak it for a lot less time. I think I did it for 15 minutes. I think I'm going to do it for like 5 minutes next time. But we're going to go to some more harder targets now, impacts of hitting into hard targets like the wood vines or some other things that I'm going to be showing to you. So now comes the more aggressive testing. Almost. Not bad. I'm actually pretty damn impressed. Bad. Pretty cool. Everything still feels pretty tight. I definitely felt the vibrations going down into the handle, but again, it's still pretty straight. I don't see any damage there. Even with definitely took the impacts pretty well. The edge looks like it took it pretty well. It's also probably because it's not very sharp. It's not a brittle edge, and was able to take the impacts pretty good. So yeah, unless there's any micro abrasions, I don't see any major cracks or anything that would alarm me on as far as the heat tempering of the blade so far. All right, guys, so once again, continuing with the hard use section of this video, I'm going to be basically taking the sword to vines. Again, we're not trying to destroy the sword. We're not trying to do things you're not supposed to do with the sword. This is just basically showing you how much the edge can take. I'm really curious about this San-Mai folding, how much it's going to protect the sword from any rolls or bending or any chips in the blade, with the hard end being on the point, on the how or the edge. So I'm just curious to see how the San-Mai holds up. Also, with the vibrations of the impact, I want to see if there's anything that's going to dislodge or loosen on the fit and finish of the sword. And that goes to show you basically how well everything is kind of fit together. But yeah, you feel it, and it's got some nice bite to it, I think. Definitely some nice bite. Let's try some more. Looks like it's holding up. This swords are built pretty tough, but if you look at the Suba or the Habaki or the Seppas or the Kashida, nothing's getting loose there, or the Fuchi. Everything looks pretty damn tight. The Ito, absolutely nothing loosened up, and I was really knuckle gripping it to get some really hard hits on the vines, which strangle trees, by the way, so vines can be cut. Not hitting any actual trees. The edge held up to a lot of abuse, and I gotta tell you, I did beat the shit out of this thing. I really tried to get some really good impacts into the vines, into the water bottles, and into the cardboard, and also chopped into wood. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but the edge did not sustain any damage. So maybe the San-Mai is real deal, and it really held up to the punishment that I was throwing at it with the wood and the hardwood and all the stuff that I did to it. So if it held up to the abuse that I was throwing at it, I think it's pretty legit. San-Mai really handled itself well. Whatever steels they are, whatever mystery steels are here, they put it together pretty well, because the edge is good, no bends, no rolls. It lives to cut again. So in conclusion, guys, I think this is a pretty good sword from Jakku, and another great offering from swordist.com. The fact that you can basically get this as is from Swordist. It's not a custom sword, it's something that they stock. And I gotta tell you, I was very impressed with the San-Mai construction and with how this thing kind of hit, and how this thing took the impact, and how this thing lasted with that San-Mai. I think it's real deal. It took abuse. Now, obviously I'm not bringing it to failure, but aesthetically is also really where this thing shines. Aesthetically is such a really beautiful sword, and you almost don't want to cut with it. But I gotta tell you, I just alcohol this up after the vine cut. Still pretty glamorous of a shine in the sword. Other than the fact of the fit and finish not being 100%, and the normal problems with Jakku with the fit, with the alignments and the alignments of the pieces, it's still pretty damn good, and it's still, I would say, above average. The Tsukamaki is fantastic, so I would call this an above average fit and finish on the sword, especially for the price point. But the fact that it's a Unokubi Zakuri and it handles so well, the balance is good. I think it makes it for a really good sword. Aesthetically, if you want something aesthetically, it's gorgeous. If you want something also that's going to cut for you, I think it's great. Ask for a sharper edge if you can, or if you have the skills, sharpen it up yourself, and this thing will be a laser beam. And I will do some more videos with this. Since I wasn't very satisfied with the cuts that I got, I am going to do another video where I'm going to hone the edge a little bit more and bring it to that next level of sharpness, and try to do a lot of the same cuts, and maybe get into some tatami mats and see basically how it handles tatami mats and how it gets to the water bottles again. But I think all in all, Swordist.com has a great deal and a great price at $352 at this Jakku sword in San-Mai construction. Great Wakizashi.